This is ABTV, Animal Bites Television.
Does me handling a snake like this completely freak you out? Or if you're walking in the woods and you think you hear a snake, are you completely in fear? Or do you know someone that is extremely fearful of snakes? It's called ophidiophobia, and we're talking about it in this week's show. Let's get into the causes of ophidiophobia, or the fear of snakes. The number one cause is actually ignorance or lack of education, and that's why a lot of people fear snakes. Also, a traumatic experience can cause ophidiophobia. Let's say you're walking through the woods as a kid and you step on a snake and it bites you. Or maybe someone you know gets bitten, or even you hear the hiss of a snake and you think of it as danger. Those are all things that can cause ophidiophobia. There's no doubt that media reports and TV shows that depict snakes as killers or somehow evil certainly feed into ophidiophobia. And there's even some research that talks about genetic disposition, meaning that if your parents are ophidiophobes, you have a higher chance of being afraid of snakes. But the truth is, I think that's more of a learned trait, because if your parents are afraid of something, you have a much better chance of being afraid of that. And later in the show, I'm going to talk how you can get over your fear of snakes or help others get over their fear. And then there's evolution. Believe it or not, some evolutionary psychologists believe that this is a trait that we've evolved into. They call it the disgust response, which basically means that snakes have always been associated with death, poison, and even evil. But why do people fear snakes? That's usually the first question when asked when someone has a fear of snakes. Now, phobias can be acquired in a variety of ways. Maybe you had a bad experience with a snake, or you saw someone else have a bad experience with a snake, or maybe you just read about something or even watched it on TV. Most phobias are overcome by the exposure to the fear object, and that's no different when it comes to the fear of snakes. This therapy is effective in addressing past traumatic experiences that might have caused the ophidiophobia. It helps the patient overcome his or her fear by making him or her look at images of snakes and gradually enabling them to hold small snakes. This helps the individual overcome the fear and move forward in life. The other therapy is called cognitive behavioral therapy. Basically what it means is that you're trying to figure out what your thought process is when you deal with snakes. Oftentimes you may write down why you're afraid of snakes. Maybe it's because you think they're slimy, which they're certainly not, or maybe you're concerned about them biting you and they're going to kill you. So once you write it down, you can actually look at it and decide, well, that doesn't really seem to be the truth, and it can change your thought process. Like, for instance, if you're concerned about a snake biting you or hurting you, how do you know it's going to bite you, and how do you know it's going to hurt you? Have you ever handled a snake before? Maybe when you handle that snake, it's going to be a great experience. So rather than thinking, oh my God, when I handle a snake, it's going to bite me or kill me, you replace that thought process with, wow, it's going to be a gorgeous animal. It's not going to be slimy at all, and I'm going to have a wonderful experience. Replacing those thought processes sometimes can be enough to get you over your fear. Go. Then there's relaxation and meditation process. You can basically get into a meditative state while looking at a picture, or do deep breathing, or even counting and controlling your breath while you're looking at a picture of a snake. And then ultimately, you might be able to get near a live snake and eventually even hold a snake, remembering to always continually to deep breathe and control your thoughts. That positive affirmation, along with meditation and controlled breathing, can oftentimes get you in a position where you realize, wow, I don't have to panic about this at all. And you start to realize how beautiful these animals actually are. If you or someone you know are just really bad, fearful snake people, the ophidiophobic that cannot get over it using these procedures, then it might be time to get into either individual counseling or even group counseling, where you'll talk about why you're so freaked out or so fearful of snakes. Oftentimes, just talking about it and rationalizing can really help. But right now, I want to take you on an exact thing that I would do if I were going to introduce, let's say, someone that was really fearful of snakes, or if I was fearful, what I'd want to have done. So let's go ahead and first pick a really calm snake. So the first thing I would do is, again, slow exposure, and you have to first decide how fearful is that person? Is someone so fearful that they can barely look at a picture or watch a video like mine right now? If that's the case, start there. Start with a picture or a video and slowly let them get kind of more familiar. Once they're at a point where you think you can introduce them to an actual live animal, pick something that is, number one, very slow moving, and number two, very docile. I love ball pythons because they're really both. I mean, they don't move a lot, they're not fast moving, and they're typically extremely docile, because you don't want this first experience to be a negative experience, that's for sure. Now, the thing I've got to stress to you guys is completely move at their pace. If just opening a cage completely freaks them out, don't go and push them to touch the animal. But if you open the cage and they can kind of stand back, slowly get closer, and eventually they're standing right over it, continue that controlled breathing, continue that positive thought process. The snake isn't going to jump out, it's not going to hurt me. How do you know it's going to hurt you? You don't know it's going to hurt you. So continue to give them that affirmation, and then eventually, just as the snake is sitting there, just ask them to see if they'll just touch it. You know, just give it a little bit of a rub down it. See, oh, wait a second, it's not slimy. It's not what I expected. Almost every time, the first time I see someone touch a snake, the first thing they say is, oh my God, it didn't feel like I expected. So right then, all those negative thoughts start to come into play, like, wait a second. If I thought they were slimy and nasty, and they aren't, maybe everything I thought was. So you're starting to rebuild the way they're thinking about things. Once you get them to the point where they can touch it without panicking, they're ready for the next step, maybe just slowly let them pick it up and be right there. And make sure to tell them, hey, if you have a problem, I'm right here, I can take it away from you. Once they hold it, oftentimes what happens is all of a sudden they feel empowered, like that fear that has held them down for so long is all of a sudden lifted, and they think it's an awesome experience. And that's the technique you want to use. Take it at their pace, introduce it to them slowly, and let them feel empowered as they're overcoming their fears. Trust me, guys, I have seen hundreds, if not thousands of people overcome their fear of snakes, and oftentimes when someone's extremely fearful, they become a huge snake lover once they get over that fear. So again, guys, I hope that these tips helped you as much as possible, because you can change your life or other people's life, because these animals are truly amazing. And if you want to, guys, you can always follow me over on Facebook and Twitter at SnakeBitesTV, or on Instagram at SnakeBites.tv, or even on Snapchat at SnakeBitesTV. And don't forget to subscribe to the vlog on Brian Barczyk. Link is in the description. It's going to be just part of my daily life, guys. So until next week, get over your fear of snakes and keep that passion for wildlife. You're watching Snake Bites.